Kang Do-yoon was nobody's special, at least. That was what everyone believed. His cadet number was 74492. His file had no awards. It had no punishments. It had nothing interesting at all. He scored exactly in the middle of every test at the United Earth Fleet Academy on Titan Station. He was so average that his teachers often forgot his name. His roommate was a young man named Yoon Ji-won. Ji-won liked to make jokes about Do-yoon. "You could walk through a room on fire," Ji-won once said, "and nobody would notice you." Do-yoon did not laugh. He did not get angry. He just shrugged and went back to cleaning his gun. That was who he was. Quiet, calm, invisible. The year was 2347. Humanity had been fighting a great war for 11 years. Their enemy was called the Dominion Collective. The Collective was a group of 4 alien species who had joined together. When they first met humans, they saw a young race growing very fast. They decided humans were dangerous. They decided humans needed to be stopped. They attacked Earth's colonies. They burned cities. They killed millions, but humans did not give up. They never gave up. The war went on and on. It ate ships and soldiers like a hungry beast. The Academy trained new cadets faster than ever before. There was no time for long ceremonies or fancy celebrations. Cadets graduated in cargo bays because the real halls were full of wounded soldiers. Do-yoon graduated with Class 447B. There were 200 cadets in his class. Nobody remembered his face. Nobody remembered his name. He was assigned to a ship called the ESV Hammerstrike. It was a small patrol frigate. Its job was to protect supply ships traveling through a dangerous area called the Vega Corridor. It was not a glamorous job. It was not a famous ship. But for a new cadet with no special skills, it was a good place to start. The Hammerstrike had a crew of 64 people. Its captain was a man named Baek Sun-ho. He was 50 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been fighting this war for too long. He had seen too many young soldiers die. The ship's second in command was Lieutenant Commander Park Eun-ji. She was 32 and very smart. She noticed things that other people missed. On the day the new cadets arrived, Eun-ji reviewed their files. Most of them were normal, young, scared, eager to prove themselves. Then she found Do-yoon's file. She read it twice. Then she read it a third time. "Captain," she said, "this one is strange." Sun-ho looked up from his coffee. "Which one?" "Kang Do-yoon. Cadet 74492. What about him?" Yoon-ji turned her screen so the captain could see. "Look at his scores. Every single test. Every single evaluation. He scored exactly average. Not good, not bad. Exactly in the middle." Sun-ho frowned. "So? Some people are average." "No, Captain. You don't understand. Statistically, this is almost impossible. Nobody scores exactly average in everything. People are good at some things and bad at others. That is how humans work." She pointed at the numbers. This cadet scored exactly 50% in combat. Exactly 50% in navigation. Exactly 50% in engineering. Exactly 50% in everything. What are you saying? I'm saying that either this young man is the most boring person in the galaxy, or he is hiding something. The captain looked down at the cargo bay. The new cadets were standing in a line, waiting for their assignments. Do-yoon stood near the back. He was not tall. He was not short. His face was plain. His posture was not good or bad. He looked like someone had designed the most forgettable human possible. "Keep an eye on him," the captain said. Then he went back to his coffee and forgot his own. Order. Do-yoon was assigned to the secondary weapons bay. His job was simple. He loaded heavy metal slugs into the railguns. Each slug weighed 30 kilograms. It was hard, boring work. The kind of job given to new cadets who had not proven themselves yet. His supervisor was a woman named Han Yuna. She was 28 years old and had been in the fleet for 6 years. She was tough and direct. She did not waste words. On Do-yoon's first day, she watched him work. He lifted the heavy slugs without complaint. He loaded them into the machines at a steady pace. He did not talk to the other workers. He did not make friends. "You're faster than you pretend to be," Yuna said. Do-yoon did not look up. "The manual says the best speed is 1 slug every 4 seconds. I am loading at 3.8 seconds. That is not what I mean." Do-yoon finally looked at her. His eyes were calm, empty, like a pond with no fish. "I do not understand," he said. Yuna studied him for a long moment. There was something wrong with this young man. Not wrong in a bad way. Wrong in a way she could not explain. He moved like a machine. He spoke like a machine. But somewhere behind those empty eyes, she sensed something else. Something waiting. "Never mind," she said. "Get back to work." Do-yoon nodded and turned back to his slugs. The hammer strike flew through the darkness of space. It protected supply ships. It avoided enemy patrols. The days turned into weeks. Nothing exciting happened. The other cadets made friends. They played cards. They told jokes. They complained about the food. Do-hyun did none of these things. He worked. He ate. He slept. He spoke only when someone asked him a question. Ji-won, his old roommate from the academy, had been assigned to a different ship. Do-hyun did not miss him. He did not miss anyone. He simply existed day after day, doing his job. Nobody noticed him. Nobody cared. He was invisible. A ghost in a uniform. A number in a file. But the universe has a way of finding the people who hide. And soon, very soon, the darkness would come looking for Kang Do-hyun. It would find more than it expected. The Vega corridor was a dangerous path through space. It twisted between 3 asteroid fields. Big rocks floated everywhere like sleeping giants. Ships used this path to hide from enemy sensors. It was slow and scary, but it was safer than open space. The hammer strike was escorting 12 cargo ships. These ships carried medicine and supplies for the colony on Vega 4. That colony had been under attack for months. People were dying. Children were sick. They needed help. Another warship called the Iron Veil traveled with them. Together, the 2 frigates protected the slow cargo ships as they moved through the rocks. Do-hyun worked in his weapons bay. Lift, load, wait, lift, load, wait. The same thing hour after hour. His arms were tired, but he did not complain. He never complained. Han Yuna watched him from across the room. She had been watching him for weeks now. The young cadet still confused her. He was too perfect at being average. Too good at being invisible. "Do-hyun," she said. He looked up. "Have you ever been in a real fight?" "No. Are you scared?" He thought about this question for a moment. "I do not think so. Everyone gets scared. That is normal. Then I will be scared when the time comes." Yuna opened her mouth to respond, but she never got the chance. The alarm screamed. Red lights flashed across every wall. The ship shook hard. Do-hyun grabbed the wall to keep his balance. Captain Beek's voice came through the speakers. It was loud and urgent. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Enemy ships incoming." Do-hyun looked at Yuna. She was already moving, her face hard and focused. "Get to your position," she shouted. "Load those guns as fast as you can." The enemy had been waiting for them. 3 big cruisers and 1 carrier came out from behind a giant asteroid. They had hidden there like spiders in a web. Now they attacked. The Anvil was the first to die. The enemy ships fired together, and the frigate broke apart in seconds. Its hull cracked open like an egg. Fire and air rushed into space. 200 people died in the blink of an eye. Do-hyun watched through a small window. He felt something cold move through his chest. But his hands kept working. Lift. Load. Lift. Load. The hammer strikes railguns fired. The ship shook with each shot. Outside, enemy fighters swarmed like angry bees. Their plasma weapons burned holes in the ship's armor. One by one, the cargo ships died. They were slow and had no weapons. They could not run. They could not fight. They just waited for death. Do-hyun loaded slug after slug. His arms burned. Sweat ran down his face. But he did not stop. Then something hit the lower deck. The whole ship jumped. Metal screamed. The lights went out for a second before emergency power kicked in. Boarding torpedo. Someone yelled through the radio. They're inside the ship. Yuna grabbed her pistol. Her face was pale, but her hands were steady. Keep loading, she told Do-hyun. No matter what happens, keep loading. Do-hyun nodded. They could hear the fighting below them. Gunshots. Screams. The sound of metal hitting metal. The enemy soldiers were called Vreth. They were reptiles with 4 arms and scales harder than steel. They were born for fighting. Human soldiers feared them more than anything. The sounds grew closer. The other workers in the bay stopped loading. They looked at each other with wide eyes. Some of them started to back away from the door. Then the door exploded inward. A Vreth soldier stood in the opening. It was 2 meters tall, with green-black scales. Its 4 arms held weapons and blades. Its yellow eyes scanned the room with cold hunger. Yuna raised her pistol and fired. The bullets hit the creature's chest but did not go through its scales. The Vreth made a sound like laughter. It moved faster than anything that Sai should move. One arm swung out and hit Yuna in the chest. She flew across the room and crashed into the wall. Do-hyun heard her bones break. She fell to the ground and did not move. The other workers screamed and ran. They pushed past each other, trying to escape through the back door. The Vreth did not chase them. It looked at Do-hyun. Do-hyun had not moved. He stood by his loading station, a 30-kilogram slug in his hands. The creature tilted its head. It seemed confused. Why was this small human not running? Do-hyun threw the slug. It was not a normal throw. His body moved in a way that used every muscle perfectly. The heavy metal slug flew through the air like a bullet and hit the Vreth in the chest. The creature stumbled backward. Before it could recover, Do-hyun was already moving. He grabbed his loading hook, a curved piece of metal used to move the heavy slugs. He ran at the Vreth. The creature swung its arms, but Do-hyun ducked under them. He had watched how the Vreth moved when it attacked Yuna. He had seen where its scales did not connect properly. The small gaps at the joints. He drove the hook into the gap at its neck. Blue blood sprayed across his face. The Vreth made a choking sound and collapsed. Do-hyun pulled out the hook and walked into the corridor. He found 4 more Vreth between the weapons bay and the engine room. They were killing crew members. They were breaking through doors. They were winning. Do-hyun killed them all. He did not think about what he was doing. His body simply moved. He found their weak spots. He struck before they could react. He used their own weapons against them. He felt no fear. He felt no anger. He felt nothing but cold, clear focus. When the security team finally reached the lower deck, they found Do-hyun sitting against a wall. Blue blood covered his uniform, his face, his hands. A simple bandage wrapped around a cut on his arm. What happened here? The security chief asked. He looked at the dead Vreth with wide eyes. Do-hyun looked up. His face was calm. His eyes were empty. "The boarding party has been neutralized," he said. "The engine room is secure." Lieutenant Commander Park arrived a few minutes later. She looked at the bodies. She looked at Do-hyun. She could not believe what she was seeing. "Who did this?" she asked. "I did," Do-hyun said. "You? Alone?" "Yes." Park stared at him for a long time. This was the boring cadet. The invisible one. The young man with perfectly average scores. "Who are you?" she whispered. Do-hyun stood up slowly. His body was tired, but his face showed nothing. "Cadet Kang Do-hyun," he said. "Weapons loader, secondary bay." Then he walked away to check on Yun. A dot behind him. The security team started counting the bodies. 9 Vreth soldiers. 9 of the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy. Killed by one unknown cadet with a loading hook. The universe had found Kang Do-hyun. And it had learned something important. Some people are not invisible because they are weak. Some people are invisible because they are waiting. The hammer strike came home slowly. Its engines were damaged. Its hull was full of holes. 17 people were still alive out of 64. The supply ships were gone. The Iron Veil was gone. By military rules, the mission was a terrible failure. But someone at Fleet Command noticed something strange in the reports. A single cadet had killed 9 Vreth soldiers in close combat. By himself. With a loading hook. This should have been impossible. The Vreth were famous for being deadly fighters. Human special forces trained for years just to survive against them. A fresh cadet with no combat training, killing 9 of them, was like a child beating 9 professional boxers. It did not make sense. Fleet Command sent investigators to find the truth. Han Yuna was in the hospital. Her shoulder was broken in 3 places. Her ribs were cracked. But she was alive, and she was happy to talk. "He saved my life," she said. Her voice was weak but clear. "That thing hit me, and I went down. I thought I was dead. Then I heard fighting." "What did you see?" the investigator asked. "I did not see much. I was hurt. But I heard it. The sounds of combat. Vreth dying." She paused. "When I woke up properly, he was bandaging his own arm. Like nothing had happened. Like killing 9 aliens was just another job." "How would you describe his fighting style?" Yuna thought about this. "Cold," she said finally. He moved like he had done it 1,000 times before. No fear, no hesitation. Just cold efficiency. The investigators talked to everyone who survived. They all said the same thing. Do-hyun had been calm. Do-hyun had been fast. Do-hyun had killed things that should have killed him. Next, they looked at his complete history. Where he was born. Where he went to school. His family. His friends. They found nothing special. He grew up in a small city in Korea. His mother worked in a factory making clothes. His father had died in a mining accident when Do-hyun was 12 years old. He had no brothers or sisters. He had few friends. He got average grades. He did average things. Nothing in his past explained what he had done. The investigators brought him in for tests. First, they checked his mind. They asked him questions for hours. They showed him pictures and measured his reactions. They looked for signs of mental problems or hidden training. He scored normal. Completely normal. Next, they tested his body. They measured his strength, his speed, his reflexes. They checked his heart and his lungs and his eyes. He scored above average. Good, but not amazing. Not superhuman. Finally, they asked him directly. How did you kill 9 Vreth soldiers? Do-hyun sat in his chair. His face was blank. His hands rested on the table. They were going to hurt the ship, he said. I stopped them. How did you know where to attack them? The gaps in their scales are not common knowledge. I watched how they moved. I saw where the scales did not connect. It seemed obvious. You watched how they moved while they were trying to kill you. Yes, the investigators looked at each other. They did not know what to think. Have you had combat training before? Outside the academy? No. Have you ever fought before? No. Then how do you explain what you did? Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I do not explain it. I just did what needed to be done. The tests continued for 2 weeks. Combat simulations, strategy games, pattern recognition, problem solving. His scores were very high, much higher than his academy records showed. But his behavior never changed. He stayed calm. He stayed quiet. He stayed invisible. In the end, Fleet Command made a decision. Kang Do-hyun was too valuable to waste. He was too useful to ignore. But he was also dangerous to publicize. If the enemy learned that humans had soldiers like him, they would become more careful, more prepared. Better to keep him secret. Do-hyun was transferred to Special Operations Division. His public records were sealed. His name was removed from official files. He became, officially, nobody. For the next 2 years, he lived in shadows. He went to places that did not exist on maps. He did missions that never appeared in reports. He worked with soldiers who would never admit they knew him. His first mission was on a frozen moon called Titan 7. Enemy soldiers were building a secret base there. Do-hyun and 3 other special operators destroyed it. Do-hyun killed 11 enemies by himself. His second mission was on a space station near enemy territory. Important prisoners needed rescue. Do-hyun went in alone while the others created a distraction. He came out with all 5 prisoners. 18 enemy guards did not come out at all. His third mission. His fourth. His 10th. Each time, the same thing happened. He was sent to do something impossible. He did it. He came back. He said nothing. The other special operators learned about him. They shared stories in quiet voices. That guy does not feel fear, one said. That guy does not feel anything, another replied. I saw him take a knife to the stomach and keep fighting like nothing happened. I saw him walk through a room full of enemies. They did not even see him until they were already dead. They called him different names. The Ghost, the Machine, the Nobody. But Do-hyun did not care about names. He did not care about glory or medals or stories. He just did his job. He never asked for praise. He never complained about danger. He never talked about his past or his feelings or his dreams. When people asked him why he fought, he gave the same answer every time. Because I can help. That was all. Because he could help. 2 years passed. The war grew worse. More ships died. More colonies burned. The collective pushed harder and harder against human space. Do-hyun kept working. Mission after mission. Kill after kill. He was a weapon that never got tired, never got scared. Never asked questions, but weapons can break. And soon, Do-hyun would face something that even he might not survive. The enemy was planning something big. Something terrible. And only the ghost soldier would stand between them and the death of millions. He did not know it yet, but his greatest test was coming. The war reached its final moment in 2349. The collective was tired. Humans had hurt them badly over the years. Every battle cost them ships and soldiers they could not replace. Every attack met resistance they did not expect. They had thought humans would be easy to defeat. They were wrong. But the collective was not ready to give up. They decided to risk everything on one last attack. They gathered every ship they had, every fighter, every weapon. They pointed it all at one target. Earth. The Battle of the Kuiper Line was the biggest fight in human history. 2,000 warships met in the darkness past Neptune. The sky filled with fire and death. Ships exploded like fireworks. Thousands died every minute. Humanity held the line, barely, with blood and courage and stubborn will. They stopped the enemy fleet, but the collective had a secret plan. While their ships died in battle, a small team sneaked past the fighting. They flew to Mars in silent ships that no sensor could see. They landed in secret. They planted bombs. Not military bombs. Worse, Mars had 17 million people living under great domes. Farmers, teachers, doctors, children, old people, families. The domes gave them air to breathe. Without the domes, everyone would die in minutes. The collective put quantum bombs in the machines that made air. If the bombs exploded, every dome would break open. 17 million people would suffocate in the cold Martian air. Then the collective sent a message to Earth. Surrender now, or Mars dies. You have 12 hours. Fleet Command received the message in the middle of their celebration. The Kuiper victory turned to ash in their mouths. They had won the battle. But they might lose something much worse. Every special operations team was called. Most were still fighting at the Kuiper line. Many were dead or wounded. Others were too far away to reach Mars in time. Only one team could get there fast enough. That team had 3 members. Sergeant Choi Nari was the leader. She was 30 years old with short black hair and sharp eyes. She had been in special operations for 8 years. She had never failed a mission. Corporal Lee Taewan was the second member. He was 26, big and strong, with a gentle smile that hid a fierce fighter. He was an expert with explosives and could disarm almost any bomb. The third member was Kang Do-yeon. Nari had worked with Do-yeon before. She knew what he could do. She also knew that she could never really understand him. He was like a knife with no handle. Useful, but impossible to hold. They met in a small briefing room on a military station near Mars. Here is the situation, Nari said, pointing at a map. The enemy planted 17 bombs across 3 dome sections. We have less than 3 hours to find them and disarm them all. What about enemy soldiers? Taewan asked. They left a garrison behind to protect the bombs. We do not know exactly how many. Intelligence estimates between 50 and 200. Taewan swore quietly. Dayan studied the map. His eyes moved across it slowly, taking in every detail. Every corridor, every room, every possible path. We need to split up, he said. The primary air hub will have the most bombs and the most guards. I will take that section alone. You two handle the secondary generators. Nari frowned. That hub is a death trap. They know we are coming. They will put their best soldiers there. Yes, you will be outnumbered. Maybe 50 to 1. Yes. Nari stared at him. After 2 years of working together, she still could not read his face. He did not look brave. He did not look scared. He just looked ready. Are you sure about this? She asked. It is the best plan. You and Taewan are better at disarming bombs than I am. I am better at killing. We should each do what we do best. She wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Fine, she said. But do not die. That is an order. Dawn nodded. He did not promise. He did not say, yes, sir. He just nodded. Then he left. The next 3 hours became a legend. Most of what happened stayed secret for many years. But the results spoke for themselves. Nari and Taewan moved through the secondary sections like ghosts. They fought through enemy soldiers with guns and knives and bare hands. They found bomb after bomb and disarmed them with shaking fingers and steady hearts. 9 bombs between the two of them. They lost radio contact with Do-hyun after the first hour. His communicator went dead. They did not know if he was alive or dead. They kept working. They had no choice. Meanwhile, Do-hyun entered the primary air hub. The collective had put 60 soldiers inside. Ruth, Crow, Torvin, the best fighters from 3 different species. They knew humans would come. They were ready. They thought they were ready. Do-hyun came through an air vent. He dropped into a dark corridor and started moving. The first guard died without making a sound. Do-hyun broke his neck and caught his body before it hit the floor. The second guard saw him. He had 2 seconds to be surprised before Do-hyun's knife opened his throat. By the time the alarm went off, 7 guards were already dead. The fighting became a storm. Do-hyun moved through the hub like water through cracks. He used guns until he ran out of bullets. He used knives until they broke. He used his hands, his feet, his elbows, his head. They shot him. He kept fighting. They cut him. He kept fighting. They broke his ribs and tore his shoulder and burned his leg with plasma fire. He kept fighting. One by one, he found the bombs. One by one, he disarmed them. His hands were covered in blood, some of it his own, some of it alien. His fingers trembled, but did not stop. 8 bombs in the primary hub. All disarmed. 63 enemy soldiers. All dead. When the deadline passed and the domes were still standing, Fleet Command sent rescue teams. They found Nari and Taewan at the pickup point. Wounded but alive. They found Do-hyun in the central control room. He was sitting against the last bomb, his hand resting on the disarmed trigger. His body was destroyed. Burns covered his arms. Cuts covered his face. A piece of metal stuck out from his side. His blood was everywhere, but he was breathing. Somehow, impossibly, he was still breathing. The medics rushed to him. They were crying as they worked. They had never seen anyone so hurt who was still alive. How? One of them whispered, "How is he not dead?" Nobody could answer. They put him on a stretcher. They flew him to the best hospital in the solar system. Doctors worked on him for 16 hours straight. His heart stopped twice during surgery. Both times, it started again. Like he refused to die. Like he still had work to do. 17 million people slept safely that night on Mars. Mothers held their children. Old men looked up at the stars. None of them knew how close they had come to death. None of them knew about the invisible soldier who had saved them all. But they would learn. Soon, everyone would learn his name. Do-hyun slept for 4 months. The doctors called it a medical coma. His body was so damaged that it needed time to heal. They fixed his broken bones. They closed his wounds. They gave him new skin where the old skin had burned away. Every day, they checked on him. Every day, they shook their heads in wonder. He should be dead, the head doctor said. He had 17 major injuries. 3 of them should have killed him instantly. But he is healing. Slowly but surely, he is healing. Captain Park Yoonji came to visit him every week. She had been promoted after the war. She commanded her own ship now. But she never forgot the invisible cadet who had once saved her crew. She sat beside his bed and talked to him. She told him about the news. She told him about her day. She did not know if he could hear her. She talked anyway. Then one morning, his eyes opened. Park was there when it happened. She had brought flowers, like she always did. The room was full of them now. Flowers from the government. Flowers from the military. Flowers from people on Mars who had learned his name. His eyes moved slowly. They found her face. "There he is," she said softly. The invisible man finally wakes up. Do-hyun tried to speak. His voice came out broken and rough. "Mars? Safe. 17 million people are alive because of you." He thought about this for a moment. Then he nodded slightly. "Good." Park laughed, but tears ran down her face. "Good? That is all you can say? You killed 63 enemy soldiers. You disarmed 8 bombs. You saved an entire planet. And all you say is good? What else should I say? She shook her head. You have not changed at all. Was I supposed to change? Most people would. After what you went through. She wiped her eyes. The war is over, Doyen. He went very still. Over? Yes. 3 weeks after Mars. The collective asked for peace. They could not believe what happened. Their intelligence teams went crazy trying to understand how one human had killed so many of their best soldiers. They started to think that we had hundreds of people like you hidden away. There is only me. I know. But they do not. She smiled. You scared them, Doyen. You scared them so badly that they decided fighting humans was not worth it anymore. Doyen looked at the ceiling. His face showed nothing, as always. But Park thought she saw something in his eyes. Relief, maybe. Or sadness. Or both. Many people died in this war, he said. Yes, many people died. I wish I could have saved more. You saved enough. You saved more than anyone could have asked for. She reached into her uniform pocket and took out a small box. It was made of dark wood with gold edges. Very expensive. Very official. Fleet Command wants to give you something, she said. Actually, everyone wants to give you something. The President. The United Earth Council. The people of Mars. Everyone. She opened the box. Inside was a medal. It was shaped like a star with Earth in the center. The Star of Earth. The highest honor that humans could give to a soldier. Only 11 of these have ever been awarded, Park said. All of them went to dead people. Heroes who gave their lives in battle. She placed the box in his hands. You are the 12th. And you are the first to receive it while still alive. Doyen looked at the medal. It was beautiful. It was heavy. It meant more than words could say. I was just doing my job, he said. I know. That is what makes you special. Park stood up. There will be a ceremony. It will be broadcast everywhere. Every colony. Every station. Every ship. The whole human race will watch. I would prefer if they did not. Too late for that. You are not invisible anymore, Kang Do-yoon. You are a symbol now. She walked to the door and stopped. People need heroes. They need to believe that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. You give them that belief. I am not a hero. The universe disagrees. She left him alone with his medal and his thoughts. 2 months later, Do-hyun stood on a stage in the center of Earth's capital city. A great plaza stretched before him, filled with people. Millions of people watched from screens across the world. Billions more watched from other planets. He wore his dress uniform. It was covered with ribbons and badges that he had never asked for. His body was healed, but scars still marked his skin. He stood straight and still, like always. The President of United Earth walked toward him. She was a tall woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She carried the medal on a silk pillow. Kang Do-hyun, she said. Her voice echoed across the plaza. For bravery beyond measure. For sacrifice beyond duty. For saving 17 million lives and ending the greatest war in human history. I award you the Star of Earth. She pinned the medal to his chest. The crowd exploded with noise, cheers, applause, people crying and shouting his name. Doyen stood there and let the sound wash over him. He did not smile. He did not wave. He just stood there, looking out at all those people. They saw themselves in him. He knew that now. He was not special. He was not superhuman. He was just a man who did what needed to be done. A man who refused to quit. A man who had been invisible until the universe forced him to be seen. If he could do it, anyone could. That was the message. That was the hope. The collective had spent 11 years trying to understand what made humans dangerous. Now they finally knew. It was not the warships. It was not the weapons. It was not the generals or the politicians. thought it was the unknown soldiers, the invisible ones, the people who worked hard without praise, the people who faced death and did not run, the people who believed that one person could make a difference. That was what humans were. A species where anyone could become a hero, where the smallest person could do the biggest things. And that was why the collective had lost. Not because humans were stronger, not because humans were smarter, because humans never gave up. Do-hyun looked at the crowd one last time. Then, for the first time anyone could remember, he smiled. It was a small smile, uncertain, like he was still learning how to do it, but it was real. And somewhere in that crowd, in a hospital on Mars, in ships flying through the stars, people saw that smile and they believed. The war was over. The hero was found. And humanity looked toward the future with hope in their hearts, because now they knew something important. No one is truly invisible. Everyone has the power to change the world. And sometimes, the most ordinary person becomes the most extraordinary hero. That is the human way.